Subscribe.
We'll highlight all that. Don't you worry.
Just
But
saying, you gotta remind people.
Subscribe right now.
Subscribe.
Subscribe. Of course.
Philadelphia, baby, you're gonna love it. Best sports fans in the world. Actually, the worst, but that's what makes them the best.
Some exciting news for the podcast in the past weekend. Sure, you've heard. For those of you who don't know,
Are you?
Yes. We're 18 seconds in, and we're already having technical difficulties. Maybe it's me this time.
To be honest, I think it's me. I'm not at my house. I'm at someone else's house because I'm in Orlando for rehab. So
whose house you at?
My friend Josh. You're an idiot.
Yeah. So for those of you who don't know, if you haven't been checking out our social for the past weekend, Friday was a really fun time for me. Spent time over at the PXG store in Philadelphia, particularly in King of Prussia, which I didn't realize was so far away from Philadelphia. It's like 20 minutes, 30 minutes north. Stopped by, saw KB and Christian, really good time. Met their master fitter. Great group of people at the PXG store. Got to see the facility, test out some new clubs. They just came out with their new Black Ops line of fairway woods, which hit absolutely amazing. Their player improvement irons are probably the most forgiving I've ever played, or at least like hit before. Every single bit of the fitting that I went through was so carefully crafted, and for some reason I felt like almost more comfortable in those clubs than I do with my own. Also realized that I've been gaming a regular flex shaft and I need extra stiff for how fast I swing. So that's most certainly something that I took home from my fitting. Yeah, like I'm
how fast I swing. Okay. Yeah, sure, dude.
Well, my club head speed is like 89, 90 miles an hour, which is like right at the extra stiff like point, according to what the fitter said.
Wait. 89 to 90 miles an hour with what club?
Like a 6-iron, 7-iron.
Okay, that makes more sense. My 7-iron's at like 100 miles an hour.
Yeah, no. So I'm supposedly at more of a extra stiff, or at least a stiff, probably a higher gram stiff shaft, which I'll have to be. I'm probably going to wind up going to get a fitting again locally in order to get my clubs redone. I definitely have to improve on those because these clubs are like 4 years old. But yeah, no, had an amazing time at PXG. People were great. Their equipment's awesome. Really cool. Like they have like the storefront style where like you don't see storefronts of any other brands like the major distributors, Ping, Callaway, Titleist alike. Typically, you only really find those at like actual sporting goods stores, and you could buy the clubs there. But really cool what they're doing at PXG. Hope we could do some more work with them. Interview with their master fitters coming out soon. Might actually be a part of this episode, depending on how editing goes. So stay tuned at the end of this episode, and/or he'll be on next week. And just really good time at PXG. Hope we can work more with them, and just really good time. I think you would actually really like how they worked us out for the hour and a half, 2 hours that I was there. Went through a whole comprehensive thing, including a putter fitting, which is pretty cool. Something that I didn't really think was a super important part of the game. Obviously, putting is really almost a third of your strokes are made from putting, but the idea of going through the small idiosyncrasies of putting was really cool to talk about and learn about. So welcome into the whole podcast. Stephen McAvoy, Ben Pirro here. Another week in the golf world. The AT&T Pebble Beach Pro-Am. Tyrrell Hatton jumps to LIVGolf, and a new name has emerged after a decade-long hiatus. The whole podcast brought to you today and every day by our friends over at Tomahawk Shades, founded on Long Island and supported by some of the biggest names in athletics: Kyle Harrison, Chris Hogan, and of course, our favorite golfer and Ben's favorite golfer, Paige Sporadic. Tomahawk Shades is meant to give you the absolute best style from the first tee to the 18th green. Check them out. TomahawkShades.com, or use the app. You can find them in the App Store and Google Play Store. And use code 25% off USP, code USP, for 25% off your next order at TomahawkShades.com or on the app, Tomahawk Shades app. Ben, we lead off with a question that I find really interesting that's been swirling around the Twitter world this past week. The Farmers Insurance Open at Torrey Pines, while typically one of the strongest events of the year, has the best field, managed to give us a field of names that if you have never watched a PGA Tour event in your entire life, you would say, who the hell is on my TV screen? Champion Mathieu Pavon, the first French champion in PGA Tour history. Steven Jaeger from Germany was on the leaderboard. Jake Knapp, recent promotion from the Korn Ferry Tour, on the leaderboard as well. Just a leaderboard full of names that you aren't typically familiar of hearing. Nikolai Hogarth, of course, you know him from the Ryder Cup. Nate Lashley, Kevin Yu. And then there were, of course, some names mixed in there that you are aware of. Tony Finau, Ludwig Oberg, Patrick Rogers, Andrew Schauffele, thinking about Tiago Will Zalatoris, Asha Batia, and Max Homa. They were all around the top 20 overall. But the big story was the Farmers Insurance Open boring or underwhelming, according to the Twitter world? Whether it be because the leaderboard was unknown players, or was it because the course was playing as difficult as it was? The course finished out averaging less 2 strokes over par for the entire tournament between the North and the South course. And on the final day, the average score to par was 3 over. Pavon won at 13 under par. The average score, only 6 guys eclipsed the 10 under mark. What do you think the story here was this week? The leaderboard or the conditions?
I would say more so the leaderboard. And I think this is something that I've been harping on for months and months and months. Honestly, actually, over a year. Once LIV became a thing and guys were defecting, it was going to that in of itself was going to bring more parity to the game. Because you have guys that you maybe haven't heard of, who will now get an opportunity to shine, and maybe instead of finishing like top 15 and no one's really talking about them and they only get a little bit of TV time, they're like top 5 and they have a chance to win. The Farmers Insurance Open, obviously we know Torrey Pines has hosted 2 U.S. Opens, and we know that the South Course does have some teeth. That's something that I want to say in the mid 2010s, they really tried to bring out more teeth in the South Course. The North Course is kind of viewed as like the little brother course. If you're, your first 2 rounds, as we said last week, you play either the North or the South, and you flip the next day. You need your good round to be on the North, because that's where you can make a lot of birdies. Whereas the South, it's a much tougher test. The fairways are very narrow. The rough is much thicker. It's a different kind of rough. It's not like Kentucky bluegrass, I believe. It's
pretty sure it's POA all around.
It might be, but it's a different kind of rough. I think the leaderboard, it is what it is. This is what you're going to get when your star players defect to LIV, and it's kind of not really a secret that, the last 10 or so years, they've really tried to bring the beast out in the South Course in particular.
Yeah, so actually, correction on my end. You're right. It's Kikuyu rough.
Kikuya.
Thank you.
Yeah. That's what. Yeah, that stuff. The ball just sits down. It's really like gnarly stuff.
So based on what you're saying, I'll start with a follow up. Do you think the fact that the leaderboard was a little bit more unknown, was that a deterrent, do you think, for the overall viewership, or do you think that it's a good thing that we're going to see more of this probably in the future?
I think for the viewership, I think the answer to that is a little bit twofold, and the reason I say that is because I think, yes, it does hurt viewership because you're not seeing like Max Homa or JT or Jason Day or like a Will Zalatoris. I know Rory didn't play, but or like a Rory McIlroy. Obviously, yeah, those guys are in contention. the viewership is going to go up. But I think for the overall health of the game and someone who follows it more religiously like you and I do, because this is basically our job, like we are the media, I think it's great because it actually gives us different storylines.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know about you, but like Mathieu Pavon, like I had never heard of the guy. Like Nikolai Hogard, like yeah, like we knew him from the Ryder Cup, and he's obviously a very good player. Like no one really knows anything about Nate Lashley. Jake Knapp, same thing. Steven Yeager, I hadn't heard that name in a long time. So and look, like it's not like it's not like none of the really good players didn't play well. Like Finau had a top 6. Patrick Rogers and Xander Schauffele and Ludwig Aberg, they all finished top 10. I think we got to give a little bit more credit to the guys that did play well and not focus so much on like, oh, the stars didn't play well. It's golf. It's so up and down. Like it's the hardest sport in the world to have consistency in because it has the most variables. So just enjoy it because, forever it was Tiger, and Tiger's great, but it's like Tiger was going to win 30% of the time he teed it up. Then that's a fact. Roughly 30% back when he was in his heyday, and now that Tiger is not Tiger anymore, and then all the stars go to LIV, or a lot of the stars go to LIV, that just opens up more opportunities for other guys. So
yeah, like when you look at it from the big picture here, you're right. The movement of guys from LIV, and Dan Rappaport was talking about it earlier today on Twitter. He had tweeted out that when you look at the list of names of guys who have gone to LIV, now including Tyrrell Hatton, Mickelson, Rahm, DeChambeau, Koepka, Johnson, Smith, Reed, Garcia, Bubba, these are all headliner names every single week, whether or not they're good because they're the old guard and they maybe aren't playing their best golf like a Sergio Garcia. They're still a headlining name. They're still someone that pops when you look at them on leaderboard. I think it's kind of two-pronged. So the leaderboard, while underwhelming to the casual, which I kind of have to take the point of view of the casual because I knew everybody on this list with the exception of Jake Knapp, who I found out apparently mashes the fucking golf ball. I think he averages like 184 club head speed for his ball speed for his driver, which like tops out almost close to 200, like a exceptional driver of the golf ball. I knew for the most part everybody else on this list, whether or not I knew them well or not. But Nikolai Hogard is the next gen, let's say, Victor Hovland of the European players coming over and being the young guys on tour to lead the European side along with Hovland and Oberg and the like. Nate Lashley, again, no one really knows about. Kevin Yu has had back-to-back weeks where he's finished top 6 the past 2 weeks. Taylor Pendrith was once a Corn Ferry Tour champion, won 2 years ago. So, like, yes, the names are compelling from the fact that we know them very well, and people have to get used to them. But I think the conditional part of this event actually made a lot more sense. I made the joke about it at the Century of like, we need to appreciate the high-scoring events more. And John Rahm has been harping on this forever, and it's why the rollback happened. Was the equipment is getting too good for the golf course, and John Rahm said that he wanted a challenge. I think it was after, I want to say it was the U.S. Open. Said that he wanted more of a challenge and to not see events be 20 under par on average per week. Our winner here was 13 under par. Torrey Pines, while yes, a challenging golf course, is not as challenging as it was at the U.S. Open 3 years ago. They clearly make the event harder at those majors. But this is a very challenging golf course. The South Course played 3 strokes over par on round 3, played even on round 4, and played, I believe, less than a stroke under par in rounds 1 and 2, while the North Course played, I think, on average 3 strokes under. So when you look at it from that sense, the South Course has teeth. We know that already. It's a very challenging golf course. People, I think, were underwhelmed with the idea of, they're not making birdies. But we've been trying to counteract this for years, according to the players. They want to have more of a challenge. So wouldn't that also correlate to people wanting to see it? It's very similar to the idea of baseball fans want to see home runs. They want to see low scores. They want to see the battle. But think about it. Think about it here. Pavin had a shot from about 145 out of the deep rough, landed it to 8 feet, and nailed the birdie for the win. When could have made par, could have forced the playoff. We had 3 guys within 1 stroke going into the final shot of the event. Could have very well seen a 5-way playoff. Isn't that what you want, though? You want the more challenging courses. I feel like golf fans appreciate the challenge more than a baseball fan wants to see home runs. I personally want to see a no-hitter every single night. I want to see a game that has 4 hits total and an absolute pitcher's duel. I don't know. Maybe it's the consensus they want to see lower scores, and the players seem to be otherwise. But I think it was 2-pronged. But overall, I think people should really start getting used to the fact that we're going to see a lot of these guys, and the European Tour players now specifically, considering when you look at the leaderboard at the end of the weekend, going into the weekend, I think like 9 of the top 10 were all non-Americans. When have you ever seen that? I think that's the other part too. We're seeing guys who aren't Americans, where a large fandom, of course, here in the States is, of course, American, but you're finding new guys and new names that aren't just who you see already from the college ranks and the KFT that are relatively unknown. I think that's a really cool part of all this that makes total sense. Ben, moving on, we have some breaking news. I cannot wait to use this graphic, so I'm very excited that we can use this for the first time in show history. We have breaking news on the PGA Tour golf world. I had already technically mentioned it, but we might as well use it now. Tyrrell Hatton is officially on LIVGolf, jumps for $60 million, roughly, according to reports, 50 to 60 million. He'll be joining up with Jon Rahm's Legion 13, which, by the way, is getting announced officially tomorrow. So some news for colors and logos and everything tomorrow. But there's another name who is possibly out there. Now, the rosters are set. Everyone's team is full for LIV. However, they introduced a new thing this year. 2 players will play in every event who are playing as individuals and not as a team member. A little bit of a fun twist. Kind of allowing people to get not like sponsor exemptions, but allowed into events to display their talent. And one of those guys happens to be someone who has been probably the only name you talked about for the entirety of the week. And I will let you take the floor and tell us who that name is and the metrics behind it, because we have some sources here on the Get in the Hole podcast, and very, very smart sources of whom we're not going to name, of course, because we are journalists and we need to keep our friends and constituents quiet in terms of the public eye. Ben, take it away. Who might be joining the LIV Golf ranks after not golfing for, I can't even tell you how long it's been.
Anthony Kim. So
Anthony fucking Kim. It's the most exciting thing, I think. I've never seen somebody, before you get into this, you go on Twitter, when Jon Rahm went to LIV, move the needle. Every single fucking person on earth was talking about Anthony Kim's 12-year hiatus from golf and the potential of him going back on the PGA Tour. It's moved the needle more in a given weekend than I think than ever in the history of golf for someone who isn't named Tiger Woods. Sorry, go ahead.
Okay, so basically, Anthony Kim, he has not played golf competitively since 2012. I have heard stories about Anthony. I know someone who knows his swing coach. Anthony is widely regarded as one of the most talented golfers ever. Okay? And that is not an exaggeration. Now, was the work ethic there? No. I have heard stories about Anthony, how he would be the hardest working golfer in the world for 2 weeks. And then the next 2 weeks, it would be 2 weeks spent in Vegas on a bender. He loves to party. I mean, who knows? I mean, he's like 38 years old now. Maybe that's out of him. Who knows? But he was always someone who he loved to talk shit. He loved to just whatever was getting thrown his way, whatever negativity was thrown his way. he relished in it. He really did. I mean, I've heard story. Sean O'Hare talked about it on a podcast. I don't remember which podcast it was, but he basically said, and Anthony was the best. He said something like Anthony was the best player on that 2009 President's Cup team. Do you guys know who else was on that President's Cup team? Tiger Woods and Phil Mickelson. Okay. Now, is that a little bit of an exaggeration? Yeah. But the international team, it's pretty well known that they didn't like him that year at all. I think he had a little bit of a mix-up with Robert Allenby the night before the singles match, and then Anthony went out the next morning and absolutely shellacked. He gave, as Sean O'Hare, a shellacking to Robert Allenby that next day.
Now, he also made that. He made that field at like 22 years old. Like I think the other part of this, before you dig deeper, is like people don't understand, and I don't technically know a lot because I didn't watch golf in 2012 much, but like Anthony Kim was not only a really good golfer, and while the numbers might tell you differently because he kind of fell off in his final 2 years and only had 2 really strong years, he's the youngest guy to ever make a President's Cup team, at least for America. And like you said, he slang shit, and when shit was talked back to him, he had the Michael Jordan complex. He would kick your ass, and also on top of that, he had the swagger unlike anybody else.
Yeah, I mean, and there's a story that Pat Perez told, and I guess like it was before they played around one time at some tournament. I mean, they were just going back and forth, and Anthony had Pat Perez just going absolutely berserk. And they were basically it was just like a war of words. And then Pat goes, and all of a sudden we just became friends. It was the craziest thing. And so just a brief overview of his career. 2006, he kind of he burst onto the PGA Tour with a sponsor's exemption at the Valero Texas Open, I believe, where he finished tied for second, played amazing. Proceeded to be a rookie on the PGA Tour in 2007. Had a pretty good year, but he was kind of known as like an immature, cocky guy. Now, keep in mind, he was a three-time All-American at Oklahoma. Okay, and he didn't graduate. He left after 3 years, so he's an All-American as a freshman, sophomore, and junior. Okay, 2008 rolls around. He wins what was then the Wachovia Championship, which is now the Wells Fargo Championship. He won it by like 5 shots, I think.
Yep.
Put on a short game just a clinic of a short game display in that final round. Proceeded to win the AT&T National, which I believe was held at Congressional, which I don't believe they have that event anymore. No. But those are at the time, those were 2 staple events on the PGA Tour. I mean, those were events that like literally Tiger won the Wachovia the year before. And the AT&T National was an event that was very highly regarded on a very difficult golf course, a golf course that, in fact, held the U.S. Open. 2009, he kind of fell off a little bit. And I think the media, I'm not saying the media played a role, but when you have such a good sophomore season on the PGA Tour, not to mention he was amazing in that Ryder Cup in 2008. And I'll never forget the video of him running with the flag, the American flag, after they won. I mean, he was a baller. I mean, just an absolute stud. And he stuck it to Sergio in that final round too. In that singles match. 2009 came around, and I think probably the media, they were like, AK contend for a major, blah 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 blah. He had an okay year. He didn't make it. I don't believe he made it to the Tour Championship, but he still finished like 30-something in FedEx Cup points, I believe. And then 2010 was, in a lot of ways, it was shaping up to be a rebound year for him. He got off to a good start. He was playing really well. And then it was revealed that he was playing with the torn ligament in his thumb. And this was kind of like the beginning of the injury issues for Anthony. He had finished second at the Honda when Camilo Villegas had won PGA National. He won the Shell Houston Open the week before the Masters, and he won in a playoff. And I remember, he would almost play reckless at times, man. I mean, he was hitting driver off the deck when he just like didn't really need to. I mean, this guy was like, he went balls to the wall. I remember in that tournament. I remember watching that. That was like my first introduction to AK as a golfer.
Mhm.
And from there, went to the Masters. He had an amazing final round where he finished, I believe, tied for fourth.
No,
Shot
he
six,
finished third with that 11 birdies. I think which still
Third.
stands the
No, no, no,
most birdies
no,
in a
no.
round.
11 birdies was in 2009.
Are you sure?
Yeah. I'll bet money on it right now with you.
I'll have to look.
He might have
I'm
finished
almost-
third, but
yeah, finished third in 2010.
I'm
Yes,
just okay. So he finished third.
was 09.
And then what's that?
Ben the historian is coming out tonight. It was 2009 with the 11 birdies. By the way, still fucking stands. AK still.
That was the
big in
second
history.
round too. That was the second
sir.
round too. 2009 Masters. Yeah.
Jeez, look at you,
And
kid.
so I know I'm just a genius.
You're some
But
historian.
it began to kind of go downhill. He started to experience some issues with his driver off the tee, and like that was a big theme at the Masters. I mean, he was at the Shell as well. The week before, he wasn't driving it well. He was obviously hurt, and then eventually, I think he finished tied for seventh or something at the Wells Fargo in 2010 when Rory won, and then he withdrew, I believe, from the Players, and then he was set to have thumb surgery because I guess at this point it was like I remember he had said something to the media as if it was like, I'm going to have surgery. It's just how much more can I tolerate the pain? And so I think AK kind of rushed back because it was 2010 and he wanted to play in another Ryder Cup. And I don't believe he made a cut, with the exception of playing all 4 rounds at the WGC Bridgestone Invitational, which everyone plays 4 rounds. Let me just double check.
Well,
yeah,
you're
so-
right on the WGC part. He never missed a cut.
So he finished. So his first event back was the WGC. Finished tied for 76th, where everyone makes the cut at 16 over par. Then he goes cut at the Barclays, cut at the Deutsche Bank. Okay, then the BMW, he finished tied for 48th, but I believe everyone makes the cut at that event as well because there was only 70 guys left. So, and then he didn't play until the World Golf Championships HSBC, but that was after the Ryder Cup. So he technically didn't make a cut and didn't make the Ryder Cup. And I think that it was probably something that might have plagued AK for a little longer than he might admit. I think maybe if he could do it over again, he would wait to come back and maybe not try so hard to make the Ryder Cup. I know that might sound ridiculous to someone listening, but at the end of the day, you have to prioritize your health. The Ryder Cup's always going to be there every 2 years, you know? And regardless, though, he had a very good year. I mean, even with all those nondescript finishes after the surgery, I mean, he still made it to the BMW, which was good. That just shows how strong he played. And then 2011, he kind of dipped. I mean, he had a tied for 6th at the Farmers Insurance Open, his third event of the year, and he was playing pretty well. He had started the year with three straight top 20s, but then he really just kind of fell off the map. I mean, really struggled. And he had a kind of an out of nowhere top 5 at the Open Championship the year that Darren Clark won. And then really like the last AK moment for the PGA Tour was the Greenbrier Classic, where he fired, I believe it was a bogey-free 62. It was 8 under par at the Old White TPC course to take either sole possession or tie for the lead going into the final round. And it was like, oh, AK is going to get on back on track. AK, he's putting it together. And he didn't make a single birdie in that final round. And he shot 74. Didn't finish.
74.
Yeah, it didn't finish. It didn't finish inside the top 10. And so, look, he had some okay finishes. I know he played pretty well in a couple tournaments in Asia, I believe. After the PGA Tour season had ended, I think he lost in a playoff to Rory McIlroy. He missed a short putt after hitting a pretty good bunker shot. But 2011 was kind of a letdown. And I remember seeing a graphic, and it was like golfers who are at a crossroads, and it was going into 2012, and AK was one of those golfers on like this cartoonish graphic. And in 2012 just didn't go well. He got off to really not a good start. He played 10 events. I believe he only made 2 cuts. And one of them he ended up being disqualified in. And then he withdrew from his last 3 tournaments. The Shell, he withdrew after a 79. He didn't even finish the first round at the Valero. It sounds like, and it looks like. And then at the Wells Fargo, he withdrew after a 74. And I remember reading an article, because the thing is, at the time, AK was one of my favorite golfers. Just the swing, the swagger. I mean, he was like the first golfer to bring swag into golf. You know what I mean? And he had he had the diamond belt buckle early in his career, and then he had like the flat bill Nike hat, and he had the long hair. I mean, he was like a dude. He was a dude playing golf. And I remember reading an article, and it was written while he was playing at the Wells Fargo, and instead of hitting on the range, he was so embarrassed by how he was playing, he was hitting balls like full shots by the short game area to get away from people. That's how embarrassed he was. And I really think his confidence and his self-belief really took a hit. And I think a lot of it, I think it was a combination. I mean, look, I'm just speculating, only AK knows this, and maybe the people closest to him know this. But I think it was a combination of the injuries, maybe coming back too soon. And if you play injured, you can really screw up your confidence, because you're probably not going to play as well. And then the media expecting you to do all these things, and eventually it's just like, well, I can't make any of these people happy,
Yeah.
And I think AK was just a victim of maybe, I'm not going to say poor career choices, but I think if he could make some decisions over, I think he would choose differently. Maybe not trying so hard to make the Ryder Cup in 2010. Maybe trying to like make sure he gets healthy. And then I believe he withdrew for like a wrist issue or a forearm issue or something at the Wells Fargo. And then a couple months later, he was, I believe he was sprint training in Southern California on the beach, and he ruptured his Achilles tendon, his left Achilles tendon, which essentially that's like a career ender as a right-handed golfer, because your weight shifts laterally this way, right? And you're posting up as a righty, you post up on your left leg. That's incredibly difficult to come back from. And so he had received, because at the time that was a 9 to 12 month process, he had received I believe it was a major medical. You can receive either a minor medical or a major medical, but I believe because of the time of year it happened and how many events he had played, I think they gave him the major. And so essentially how that works, for those of you that don't know, is you get X number of events the next year when you come back, and you have to make X amount of dollars to make it so that you finish inside the top 125 on the money list to keep your tour card. Because that was his last year of exempt golf on the PGA Tour, 2012. Yeah. And then nothing was really going on. Nothing was really being told. No one really knew what was going on with AK. And then reports kind of started to come out that he had this insurance policy that he had obtained. but it was very gray. It was like people were like estimating it's between 10 to 20 million dollars, and it's been essentially it's just he's getting paid to go away.
Yeah.
But no one really knows the inner workings of this unless you are so deep in the game of golf, essentially, you know? And so fortunately for me and for us, we have some sources, and I'm sorry for the long ramble, but I want everyone to understand AK was one of the most talented golfers you will ever see. And a sweet swing, great swag, and it's really a shame he didn't play all these years, because I do think the game of golf really missed him, especially since we haven't had Tiger, you know?
Yeah.
Not saying he was going to be Tiger, but I think people don't realize how good this guy was. And so a friend of mine, I asked him, I said, do you know anything about the AK situation? Kind of what's the deal? Like, I know he got this injury settlement supposedly, but like, why does he have to give the money back? This fellow said, I wish I knew more about that. It's an interesting situation. I understand it as if his insurance policy was based upon the idea that if he was never able to play pro golf again, then it would basically be like a cover for the money he would have made on tour. So if he plays again, he can't make money on top of that policy. So if you're not able to work, they cover what they think you would have made in that time. And then I asked him another question. I said, I assume the insurance policy would have been negotiated between AK and his insurance company. Because I was like, are they insured by the PGA, or does the PGA help insure the players, essentially? This source said, yeah, usually all the PGA Tour players are covered through the PGA Tour health insurance, so they must have reached an agreement with the Tour's insurance and AK. Then another individual, who was another source of ours, I asked him basically the same question, the same initial question. He goes, I'm not sure whether it was an insurance policy with the Tour or with a different policy carrier. As far as I know, the Tour will only pay you roughly 25% of your salary for up to 3 years. It might be different for PGA Tour winners. Otherwise, he might have taken out a policy called a permanent total disability policy, which would have guaranteed him X amount of money for the rest of his life so long as he wasn't competing. Once you compete, you can't receive payments. He likely has to pay back money because the policy was giving him money under the condition he does not compete again.
Yeah.
So that's most likely because they probably viewed it as it's his left Achilles. He's probably not going to be able to play again. And maybe that's what the doctors were also saying. That's probably the insurance policy he took out. Now, Anthony wants to play golf again, which I'm very surprised because Pat Perez said that AK doesn't miss it at all. But, yeah. And who knows, if he goes to LIV and they give him the $10 million, the dude breaks even, essentially, roughly, assuming it was $10 to $20 million that he was insured.
Well, the question is though, is that if he goes to LIV, which obviously the report is that he'll go there and not PGA Tour. By the way, his swing 12 years later, the guy spent the last 12 years basically literally in the shadows. Golf Digest, Joel Beal wrote a really good story about. It was an opinion piece, basically saying like, stay out of the limelight. Like some things are best left in the past. But this excerpt really kind of hit me. It was Anthony Kim was the aberration, the rare star in golf who burned out rather than faded away. He literally played by injuries, retreated from the spotlight, and literally didn't play golf for a decade. He said he fell out of love with the sport. He stopped playing entirely. He said in a recent interview of some sort that he just has not played golf whatsoever. All of a sudden, the video sparks up of him on the range, completely pure swing. It's one of those things that Like once you have it, you never lose it, sort of thing. It's like mental, not
Well,
mental.
well,
So like he's yeah.
I would not say that he did not completely play golf. I had heard and I had read that he just wasn't doing what he used to do. Like he would show up, he'd hit balls for like 30 minutes, 45 minutes, pure most of them, and then just leave. Or like he'd practice for like an hour. It was more just, it sounded more like it was just because he was bored. Like I
Yeah.
don't think he just hasn't touched a club because your swing doesn't look that good after 12 years if you don't touch a club. That's just not how it works.
Well, clearly he wasn't playing competitively at all. He wasn't doing any sort of
No. He was not
competitive
playing
training
competitively.
either.
But I mean, you look. I mean, the guy. I'm sure he was just kind of fucking around, like hitting some balls and maybe playing with his buddies or something. You know. I mean, look, he is a partier. You know, he was known as a partier. You know. I mean, maybe he was just entertaining his buddies, you know, getting like a group of guys together or whatever, you know. But I'm sure he was playing to some degree, obviously not competitively because he would have had to give the money back, which now it sounds like he's going to give the money back.
Well, so that's the question now, right? The report is the report is he's in talks for LIV, not the PGA Tour. If he goes to LIV, PGA Tour can't expect him to pay them the money. He isn't playing on the PGA Tour.
Well, no. So he has been in talks with both the tour and LIV. That was what the initial report had suggested.
Okay.
I do think he's more inclined to go to LIV. Regardless, he would have to pay the money. Regardless, wherever he goes, he would have to pay back that $10 million. That's most likely, or whatever it was. That's most likely what would happen. I know because I know people who have played tour golf. Not quite at the level of AK, but they had something very similar. And if they so much as competed in a mini tour event, they would stop getting their insurance, whatever payments they were getting.
Shit.
Now it depends. I'm sure it depends on the certain situation. They wouldn't have to give it. My friends who have had to do this, it was not like a permanent disability thing, so they didn't have to give it all back. But once they competed, and like say, hypothetically, a one-day moonlight, they would stop getting whatever stipend they were getting, like to cover them. So he would have to give that back. There's no question. Now, the thing is, he no longer has that major medical.
Yeah.
Okay, the PGA Tour did away with that back in like 2013 or 2014 with him. So if he was to play on the PGA Tour, it would literally be on past champion status, or it would be sponsors exemptions.
Yeah.
Or if he Mondayed, I have no idea if he would have to go through pre-qualifying as well. I have no idea what his status is. He doesn't even have an official World Golf ranking at this point. So
no, he doesn't know.
like I don't know how that would work. But if I were him, I'd sit there and I'd be like, well, I'm just gonna fuck it. I'm gonna go to LIV. Like, even if they gave him $5 million, he makes half of it back, and then he just competes in like six, seven, 8 LIV events. He's making six figures minimum. Yeah. I think that would be a much better route for him because it would probably give him more competitive reps as well. Like if he's really serious about this, and I think he must be, because who the hell forfeits $10 million plus about if they're not serious about something? You know what I mean? Like,
well, hold on. Maybe he's serious about it. Wants to go play on the PGA Tour. Not that I'm gonna speculate the hell out of this. Is there a chance here? We don't know what he's been doing for the last decade and a half. What if he needs money, right? What if LIV Golf's going to offer him $20 million and a chance to make really good fucking money with a minimal schedule? You net $10 million, and then you're playing for, at the very worst, what, $400,000 a week? when you go play.
120, but yeah.
The possibility here is that, and obviously it makes more sense to go to LIV anyways, because you're gonna automatically get the money back. I don't know what his financial situation is. I'm sure he's fine, but also, like, the idea of LIVGolf offering you this money, it's the same thing as what we've been saying forever. The opportunity is there to make a hand over fist money and be able to have some to give back to the tour.
I do not think he's hurting for money. He made over 12 million in basically 5 years on the PGA Tour. On top of that, he got the 10 to 20 million in the insurance policy. And then on top of that, he had his endorsements. He was a Nike athlete, and I'm sure he was getting paid pretty well by Nike.
Stephon Marbury also went broke. This should happen.
I'm aware, but I know someone who knows Anthony's swing coach.
Yeah,
AK is not hurting for money.
I can imagine.
He's not hurting for money. AK, Kevin Na ran into him a couple years ago in freaking Vegas. Like,
what a shock!
And Kevin was like, "Yeah, you look great." Like, he's not hurt. There is not. If AK was hurting for money, like, I remember, we would know about it.
Yeah,
we would know about it for sure, because
it's no one is West being homeless.
Well, the thing is, he can't. He's not just going to give up $10 million if he doesn't have it.
That's true.
Like, there's no way. No one would give him a $10 million loan either. You know, like, let's just say hypothetically, right? He's like, shoot, I am broke. I got to play golf again. But first, I got to get back this $10 million, but I don't have $10 million. Well, I'm going to go and get a $10 million loan, but I haven't played golf in 12 years. Like, it wouldn't make any sense.
Or just go to LIV and get your 20 million. That's
true, but
like, what does it matter at that point either?
The man is not hurting for money. I heard someone say one time, actually, you know what? I'm going to throw this one out there because this is just absolutely hilarious, because the person that told me this, I don't care for at all. So I'm just going to, I just don't care for this individual. I'm not going to say the person who told me this, but I'm going to say the person who uttered this remark to the person I don't like.
Sure.
When people are like, why the hell is Tiger Woods playing after, like, all those back surgeries? Claude Harmon.
Oh, God.
Said Tiger is hurting for money. And I heard that from an individual who I don't like. And I was just like, okay, there is absolutely no way on God's green earth that Tiger Woods is hurting for money. Like, there is no way. Okay.
Dude's a fucking gazillionaire.
He's been a billionaire twice, before his wife divorced him and then after his wife divorced him. Okay, he's doing just fine. But regardless, though, back to the AK thing. I don't think he's hurting for money. I just maybe 12 years away, he's just like, damn, I miss it. I miss talking shit with, like, Pat Perez. You know, I miss, like, the camaraderie, even though it sounds like not a lot of guys liked him. I miss, like, the competitive stuff. Maybe that's what it is with AK.
Yeah.
You know, like, I will say one last thing. I think it's completely unreasonable to think that he's going to play well, because I just want everyone to understand something. And just so I'm not talking out of my butt cheeks, I'm going to pull this up in the PGA Tour. He made just over half of his cuts in 2011.
Yeah.
2012, he only made 2.
What, played 10 events, missed what, 6 cuts and withdrew from 3? Or missed 5 cuts? Missed 5 cuts, withdrew from 3 his last 3 events, and made 2 cuts in 10 events.
We withdrew from 3, DQ'd in 1, so he missed the cut in 4.
And 2 made.
Yeah.
Math.
So this guy, look at us.
Wow, 2 fucking geniuses over here.
But in his last year and a half on the PGA Tour, he played 36 events. He made 16 cuts, and a lot of it was ugly.
Yeah.
Okay? And he was frustrated, and he was hurt. Can his body withstand a full season on LIV or a full season on the PGA Tour? And can he play well? He hasn't competed in 12 years. I'm not going to put anything past him because he's universally regarded as one of the most talented golfers. Like Sean O'Hare, I think it was Sean O'Hare that said he was going to be a Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
Okay. I wouldn't put it against him, but everyone just pump the brakes. And when he does return, regardless of how Anthony plays, just enjoy it. Because this is a treat. This is an absolute treat for any golf fan out there. Anthony Kim is going to play professional golf again. This is a treat, and enjoy it.
After a half hour of talking about Anthony Kim, I'm ready to watch Anthony Kim highlights for literally for the next 8 hours. So.
Dude, they're so good. I was watching them the other day, and I was like, bro, this guy's swing is so good. It's unbelievable.
There's something about the giant silver bedazzled diamond AK belt buckle, honestly, again, I'm still in shock at how good his swing looks in his latest post from Monday Q. That was just so pure, so nice. He's swagged out still with the sunglasses and the rope hat. He's just chilling. I love it. Quick little around the horn here for what else happened in the world of golf before we head to the break. Again, after a half hour of talking about Anthony fucking Kim. Nelly Korda claims the LPGA Drive On Championship forced the playoff with Lydia Ko. Went birdie eagle in her last 2 holes to force the playoffs. Do you think you could ever do that?
Birdie eagle?
On the last 2 holes to force the playoff?
Yeah, I think I could do that for sure. I mean, to be fair, I got into a tournament one time, and I was like, "All right, Ben, you screwed yourself over. You better go birdie, birdie, birdie." And I did. I went birdie, birdie, birdie.
Love to see it. The PGA Tour is going to receive about $3 billion in investments from the Fenway Sports Strategic Sports Group as early as this upcoming week. It's only to cover domestic rights. We'll talk more about that soon, as well as this. Bob Harrick from Sports Illustrated. By the way, shout out to Sports Illustrated. I feel so bad for all those folks who got laid off. Hope they all find homes soon. Bob Harrick reports that significant progress has been made between the PGA and PIF. A new framework will be presented soon. Possibly a deal is already done. They're just waiting on final confirmations. We'll update you on that as it comes in. With that being said, we're going to take short break. On the other side, we're an hour down, 25 more minutes to go. We have to talk on the AT&T Pebble Beach Pro-Am, the second of 8 signature events of the year. We'll talk about who is hot going into this week, and of course, we'll give you our picks for the event. Don't worry, folks, it's to get the whole podcast right here on the Underground Sports Philadelphia Network.
Get in the Hole is brought to you by PHI Apparel Company, our incredible merch partners. PHI Apparel Co. provides unique designs and high-quality clothing from T-shirts to hoodies for every golfer around. With their original designs for all, there's no doubt you'll stand out on the course, the driving range, or at the 19th hole. Go to phiapparel.co and use code UNDERGROUND at checkout for 10% off any order. That's code UNDERGROUND at phiapparel.co and grab exclusive Get in the Hole podcast merch and support your favorite golfers.
Welcome back in, folks. Get in the Hole here with Steve and Ben. We head on to Pebble Beach this week. I can't believe it costs $1,000 to play this golf course. It's ridiculous.
I mean, I can.
I mean, it was
inflationary times
years ago. Yeah, right. Well, although actually, I found out you could play Bandon, all 3 courses on Bandon for $200. You play one of them in the off-season fee for $110, and then they have a playback rule where you could play another 18 for half the price. And then a third time around, if you were to play 72 holes, or 54 holes, 36 holes, you can pay. It would be full price, half price, and then the third round's free in one day. So you could technically play all 3 courses at Bandon for the price of 1.5. We start off here. Quick little segment before we head to our picks. We're already an hour down, 20 more to go. Whomst is hot going into Pebble Beach. I love bringing back this this segment. Ben, I'll lead off with you. Give me a couple names that you think are hot going into this week. We could do a little bit of Whomst is not, but I feel like everybody's hot at this point early on in the year. Benny boy, Whomst is hot going into Pebble Beach.
Okay. Since this is new, I'll give you 2 and you give me 2. How's that sound? All right, cool. Who's hot? Xander Schauffele. Who did I think I picked him to win last week, didn't I?
Yes, you did.
Yeah, and he didn't win. He still finished top 10. He has 3 straight top 10s to begin the season, including a -27 showing at the MX in Palm Springs, California. And he's 3rd on tour in strokes gained tee to green. I mean, this is this is what you expect of Xander. This is not a shocker by any stretch of the imagination. And my other pick, Kevin Yu, has 2 straight top 6 finishes to start the year with the California swing. Good on you, Kevin.
Yeah, no, quite the run from Kevin so far. Also, hate the fact that
could you please not eat and talk? I could not understand a word you just said.
I hate the fact that Kevin Yu is they put him on the broadcast saying he's from Chinese Taipei. Just say he's from Taiwan. Like, we've been not to get geopolitical here, guys, but it's been Taiwan forever. I have 3 guys who are actually really hot going into this week, and I'm gonna discount a little bit from the Farmers because I feel like the course played so difficult. He didn't play the best at this golf course. I'll give you a bit of a pass. First of all, of course, the runner-up from this week, Nikolai Hogard. 3 top 25s to begin the year on the PGA Tour. Finished 7th in Dubai behind Rory McIlroy a couple weeks ago at the Hero World. Typical of a guy like him, plays, of course, in Europe quite often, has a really good European acumen. It's only going to get better as he continues here in the States. Eric Cole, while he missed the cut at the Farmers, again, giving him a little bit of a pass, he had 3 straight top 21 finishes. He finished 7th at the, what was the Sony or the Century? One of the 2 in Hawaii. Really strong beginning of the year for the reigning PGA Tour Rookie of the Year at 34 years old. And someone who I'm probably going to be picking in beer money, spoiler alert, JT Poston has been on a fucking bender. He finished top 5 at the Century. He finished 6th at the Sony and finished 11th at the Amex. He's only going to get better from here. This is the best 3-event stretch he's had in his entire career. He's won at the John Deere in the past. He's played tremendous golf in alternate event showings. Finally has worked his way up into the signature event level, finishing top 50 this past year, particularly with his fall swing stretch. Really looking forward to what's going to happen with JT Poston. And with that, we jump in to our beer money picks this week, brought to you by our friends over at Kenwood Beer. Get in the Hole is brought to you by Kenwood Beer. Who's Kenny, you might ask? Well, he's smooth, he's clean, and bright with a taste to boot. Kenny's the routine choice of folks who want a balanced, flavorful, no-frills beer that's right for literally any occasion. Only 120 calories and 8 grams of carbs. Some might call it the best light beer they ever had. We just say you can't beat the original. Head to kenwoodbeer.com and use the Kenny tracker to find where you can get your hands on some ice-cold, refreshing Kenwood beer from your favorite liquor stores in the Pennsylvania, New Jersey, or Maryland areas, as well as at the Wells Fargo Center and beyond. Must be 21 years or older to consume, and of course, please drink responsibly. We begin with the top 20 at Pebble Beach. Ben, who are you taking this week?
Oh, man. Okay. Real quick, I understand that Pebble Beach is one of the most fantastic and amazing golf courses. I said fantastic, didn't I?
Yes.
Yeah, fantastic and amazing courses in America and in the world. This event, though, they have this event at like the worst time of the year. I can count on numerous occasions when this event has been shortened to 54 holes, literally because of rain.
Yeah.
I think Dustin Johnson won 2 of those, actually, which is hilarious enough. That's at this specific tournament. But regardless, my top 20 finish, I'm going to go with our main man, Russell Henley. He's off to a strong start this year. He's one of those guys, we should do sometime a list of guys who don't get enough respect on the PGA Tour. He would be one of the top guys on that list for me. I don't think people give him enough love. He won in his first ever PGA Tour event, I believe in 2012 at the Sony, and he's kept his card every single year. Think about that. The dude's a model of consistency, and he's going to be consistent again this week. Top 20.
Yeah, I'll have to pick. I'm going to the well that I literally just picked from. JT Poston, top 20.
Okay.
Keeping it easy. Really strong player. Love him this week. Top 10, who you got?
Oh man, you know what? I'm gonna go with Tommy Fleetwood. I think this tournament, I think the course, I think everything fits his game and suits his game well. He's got that sweet swing. He can really curve the ball, which is something that I really like in high pressure situations. Just a little fun fact, a little nugget for you golfers out there. If you're ever in trouble, if you're ever in a high pressure situation, it's easier to curve it than to hit it straight, and he can really curve it. So I would go with Tommy Fleetwood for a top 10.
Take a freaking rip. I really hope he gets his first win sooner rather than later. Top 10 this week. God, I have so many good picks I could take for a top 10 here or a gimme, and I just don't know where to take them. All right, I'm throwing a name out here that I really hope sticks. Denny McCarthy, top 10. Approach game is so important here. Pebble Beach has statistically the smallest greens in diameter on tour. Denny McCarthy this year is one of the top 10 players in stroke gained approach, and of course, he's a putting savant. I will take Denny for a top 10 this week at a really good freaking number at over 6-1 odds for him this week. Top 5.
Man, top 5. You know who I'm going to go with? Someone who I feel like I never picked to do well. I'm going to go with Jordan Spieth. He's won this event before, and I think this course is made for his game. He can be a little loose off the tee, and for the most part, he can kind of be loose on this course. But I think Jordan Spieth for a top 5 is the way to go.
Top 5 for me. You know, it's funny because I'm so inclined to go back to the well again. I think I've taken him each of the last 2 to 3 weeks, or like 2 or 3 events this year. Or I'm sorry, 3 of our 4. What's his recent numbers? Yeah, screw it. I'm going for it. Xander Schauffele, T5. Model of consistency, but just can't win. Alexander, your gimme pick.
Oh man, I don't have Michael Block as my gimme pick this week, man. Is that the 1 point I got from last week?
Yes. You fucking dunce.
All right, my gimme pick.
I was so hopeful he was going to play better. He shot 3 under in the first 9 holes. I sent a photo to the chat. I said, Michael Block listened to the pod and said, Ben, fuck you. Did not.
No. It was only after his first 2 when he went like birdie or something.
Whatever,
but regardless, I was like, whatever, dude. And I got so excited. I was like, wait, did he actually say that? That would be so cool. And you're like, no, I wish. I was like, oh damn.
Oh damn.
You know who I'm gonna pick? This is good. This is a tough one, and we can quantify this. Lucas Glover will finish in the bottom 15 of this event.
The bottom 15?
Well, yeah, because there isn't a cut, is there?
I don't believe so, no.
No, exactly. So he's going to finish in the bottom 15.
Okay. All right. I dig it. My gimme.
That's a good pick.
No, it's a fine pick. My gimme this week, you know, I'm kind of inclined to take the runner-up, the defending champion that missed the cut, finish outside the top like 50, which would be Justin Rose. But I'm not going to do that because I'm a nice person. I really like the long shots. And again, look, this has been the year of the long shot. All 4 guys to win this week have been at least 250-1 to win events. But my gimme, I'm going to take Alex Noren top 10 in the first round. Wild pick, never done before. I think Alex Noren can have a really good first round and like be the first round leader. I'm going to take him to be top 10 in the first round of this event. Crazy idea, but let's fucking do it. Your winner at the AT&T Pebble Beach Pro-Am.
You know, this one was a tough one for me. I'm going to go with Victor Hovland to win. And these are some of the smallest greens these guys are going to see on tour. We already know Hovland is an elite ball striker. But what he brings to the table now with short game is insane. I mean, it's just magic around the greens. So when you combine that accuracy with that level, that high level of short game when he does miss a green, or maybe when he goes for a par 5 and 2 and he doesn't quite get it there all the way, or maybe he just misses it off on the fringe or something, I like Victor Hovland to win this week. I really do. It's a classic golf course. I think that fits his game. He hits it long, but he's relatively straight. And the short game can always bail that guy out now. Like, you can't really bet against a guy who made a weakness into a legitimate strength. You know what I mean? So I got to go with Victor Hovland.
I have a crazy bet. And you are going to be like, what are you doing when I say this? So, as I mentioned, this year has been the year of the long shot so far to begin the year. This pick is going to be the longest shot of the PGA Tour calendar so far this year. I'm pulling up where he is on the leaderboard. He finished top 20 here last year. He proposed to his then girlfriend off the 18th green last year at this golf course. Loves Pebble Beach. Is currently 8th on the PGA Tour in strokes gained around the green and approach based off of 7 rounds, which has mostly happened at Torrey Pines, also historically small greens, and the Amex, also historically small greens. The California Swing has a lot of these smaller greens. It's a long shot pick at 225 to 1. Mark Hubbard to win the Pebble Beach Pro-Am. Chubba Hubbard. Homeless Hubs. He's going to win this week. It's so hard to get the winning pick right that I feel like I can just throw fucking darts and they somehow might hit. So we're taking a hack at it.
You kind of need to start throwing darts because I'm currently winning in the season-long beer money pick.
I'm down 1.
Yeah, but I'm still winning, which is hilarious.
I have 45 more events.
It doesn't matter. I'm winning.
This
is awesome.
It's a long-ass season. That's all I'll say.
Yeah.
Thank you for tuning in here.
I'm going to build. You picked shut up. You picked Mark Hubbard, and I picked Victor Hovland. Okay, come on. Let's be honest.
What?
I don't know. I just think your picks this year have been a little bit interesting, man. They've been a little interesting.
And you know what?
What?
If it hits.
I'll never hear the end of it.
It'll be the greatest call out in show history. I'm telling you, it will be
for sure.
The best call out.
No.
Have some faith. Have some damn faith.
I don't have faith in you. I don't have faith in you.
My mic went muted. Nice. Thank you folks for tuning in here to Get in the Hole. Be sure to follow, like, subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. On YouTube at Underground Sports PHI. You can find us, just type in word Underground, and you will find everything from Get in the Hole, top bins, to OTB, to everything you can find on our network. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok, Get in the Hole Pod. And, of course, me and Ben on our personals. Thank you again, folks, for tuning in. We'll be back next week with another event here on the PGA Tour. We're bringing you all the news and action that you could imagine in the world of golf. That's Ben. I'm Steve. We'll see you next. Thanks for listening to Get in the Hole, the official golf podcast of Underground Sports Philadelphia. Catch us every week wherever you get your favorite podcasts, and be sure to like and subscribe on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube. You can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Get in the Hole Pod, and follow Underground Sports Philadelphia at Underground PHI. We'll see you next time. And remember, get in the hole!